Welcome to Moonlight Literature, a quiet space where stories breathe, words soften, and the past gently unfolds beneath the sound of your thoughts. Tonight, we drift into the world of William Shakespeare, a writer whose voice has travelled across 4 centuries, whispering through stages, classrooms, and the quiet corners of our imaginations. Whether you know him through a few famous lines, a play you studied long ago, or perhaps only as a name in the background of history, Shakespeare's influence surrounds us more than we often realise. His characters dream and despair. They love fiercely and fear deeply. They make mistakes, sometimes tragic ones, and try to understand themselves in a world that feels vast and uncertain. In them we see reflections of our own hopes and contradictions. This video is not a lecture, it is an invitation to slow down. As you listen, you may learn new things, small curiosities, hidden details, or gentle insights. But more importantly, you may feel something familiar, something human. Shakespeare wrote in a time very different from ours, yet his words still echo the emotions we carry today. So settle into a comfortable space. Let the music ease into the background. Let the images become soft companions, and allow your mind to wander through 99 quiet discoveries about a writer who understood the heart with extraordinary clarity. This is Shakespeare, not as a distant cultural monument, but as a presence alive in language, in story, and in the quiet depths of the human experience. Welcome once again to Moonlight Literature. Let's begin. Fact 1. His birth is a mystery. Wrapped in tradition, William Shakespeare was born in Stratford-upon-Avon in April 1564, but the exact day is unknown. Records were rarely precise, and baptisms were more important than birthdays. He was baptised on April 26th, so many assume he was born 3 days earlier, on April 23rd. Over time, that date became tradition, not fact, a symbolic moment rather than a documented truth. It's gentle to imagine his birth as something softly blurred by history, much like his plays, luminous at the edges but never fully graspable. His life begins the way his words often do, in mystery. Fact 2, his parents were neither nobles nor peasants. Shakespeare's family lived between worlds. His father, John Shakespeare, was a glove maker and local town official, respected but not wealthy. His mother, Mary Arden, came from a farming family of some standing. This meant Shakespeare grew up neither privileged nor impoverished. He lived in a household that worked with both hands and words, surrounded by trade, stories, and the rhythms of daily labour. This middle place, not too high, not too low, quietly shaped how he wrote about kings and commoners with equal insight. His childhood gave him the ability to see every side of a life. Fact 3. He probably attended a grammar school and it was intense. Shakespeare's education was almost certainly at the King's New School in Stratford. There are no attendance records, but his knowledge of Latin, rhetoric, and classical authors makes it nearly certain. Grammar school in his day was demanding, 10-hour days filled with memorization, translation, and constant recitation. Students read Ovid, Seneca, Cicero, not as distant names, but as daily voices shaping their thoughts. This foundation helped him write plays layered with classical echoes. Though he never went to university, his early schooling offered a deep well of language that stayed with him like a quiet shadow. Fact 4. His marriage. was surrounded by questions and speed. At age 18, Shakespeare married Anne Hathaway, who was 26 and already expecting their first child. The marriage license was issued unusually quickly, suggesting some urgency. Historians still debate their relationship, but little is truly known. We picture the marriage through fragments: a rushed license, a pregnant bride, a young man at the start of adulthood. These pieces never form a complete portrait. Instead, they create a space for gentle speculation, reminding us how much of his life lives in silence. The facts remain steady, but the emotions around them drift like smoke. Fact 5. He was a father before he became a London playwright. Shakespeare's first child, Susanna, was born just 6 months after his marriage. 2 years later, twins followed, Hamnet and Judith. He was a young father in a small market town long before he became a writer in London. The daily responsibilities of raising 3 children must have shaped him quietly, though no letters survive to show what he felt. Hamnet's early death at age 11 is one of the most tender mysteries surrounding Shakespeare. Some believe the grief echoes in Hamlet, a play written not long after. Whether or not this is true, the timing invites reflection. Fact 6. His lost years remain one of literature's great mysteries between 1585 and 1592. Shakespeare disappears from historical record. No letters, no employment records, no legal traces. These 7 years are known as the lost years, and scholars have imagined many possibilities: that he taught in a school, acted in travelling companies, or worked as a law clerk. Some believe he fled due to a poaching scandal. Others think he simply lived quietly, slipping into London's theatre world unseen. The truth is likely ordinary, yet the silence around it feels extraordinary, as if the future playwright stepped into a shadow before stepping fully into history. Fact 7. His earliest reputation was as a playwright for hire. When Shakespeare first appeared in London's theatrical scene, he wasn't celebrated yet. He was a new writer, possibly revising others' plays before creating his own. Theatres needed quick scripts, and Shakespeare proved reliable. It's easy to imagine him as a young man observing actors, listening to crowds, rewriting scenes late into the night. Slowly, his voice emerged. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but through steady practice. His rise reminds us that genius often begins with ordinary work, rewriting lines, adjusting scenes, watching how words sound on a stage. Before he became Shakespeare, he was simply learning the craft. Fact 8. He was criticised early in his career. In 1592, a rival playwright, Robert Greene, attacked Shakespeare in print, calling him an upstart crow. The insult suggests jealousy, because it implies that Shakespeare, who lacked university training, was rising too quickly. This early criticism tells us 2 things. He was making an impact, and his talent unsettled established writers. Instead of fighting back, Shakespeare remained silent. His response came through his work. Within a few years, he became the most successful playwright in London. The insult remains a small reminder that even admired figures begin with resistance and doubt. Fact 9. He became a shareholder, not just a writer. One of the reasons Shakespeare grew wealthy was his business sense. Instead of being paid only per script, he became a shareholder in the Lord Chamberlain's Men, the theatre company that performed his plays. This meant he earned money from performances, not just writing. It was a quiet but brilliant decision. Each successful show increased his income. Over time, he purchased property, invested in land, and secured financial stability for his family. His career shows that creativity and business can walk together, each supporting the other gently, like twin pillars beneath a long, steady life. Fact 10. He wrote for the strengths of specific actors. Shakespeare wasn't writing into a void. He knew the actors personally. He crafted roles to fit their voices, talents, and quirks. Richard Burbage, the company's lead actor, likely originated roles like Hamlet, Macbeth, and King Lear. The comedy roles were shaped for performers gifted in physical humour and quick delivery. Knowing this changes how we understand the plays. They were not abstract works, but living scripts shaped by real bodies on real stages. Shakespeare wrote with faces in mind, voices in mind, laughter in mind. The plays were alive long before they were immortal. Fact 11. Theatres in Shakespeare's time were surprisingly noisy. We often imagine Shakespeare's plays performed in quiet, respectful silence. But Elizabethan theatres were lively places. Audiences ate, drank, shouted, argued, and reacted loudly to the performances. The groundlings, who stood closest to the stage, were particularly vocal. This noise shaped the way Shakespeare wrote. His plays had to hold attention through rhythm, wit, and emotion strong enough to cut through the crowd. When we read his work today, we sometimes forget it was born in this energetic, messy environment. The words now feel dignified and distant, but they were forged in the heat of living noise. Fact 12. The Globe. Theatre was partly owned by the actors. When the Lord Chamberlain's men lost the lease to their original theatre, they dismantled it, piece by piece, and carried the timber across the Thames to build a new one, the Globe. The actors were not just performers but financial partners. Shakespeare himself owned a share. This collective investment meant the Globe was both a workplace and a home for creativity. Performances depended on weather, crowds, and the unpredictability of London life. Yet the company thrived. The Globe's round shape, open roof, and bustling atmosphere helped shape many of Shakespeare's most powerful scenes. Fact 13. Shakespeare borrowed heavily from older stories. Shakespeare rarely invented plots from scratch. He adapted tales from history, mythology, and existing literature, reshaping them with new language and emotional depth. Romeo and Juliet came from an Italian story, King Lear from older legends, and Hamlet from a tale told across Europe. But what he borrowed in story, he transformed in voice. His genius wasn't invention of plot, but reinvention of feeling, taking familiar narratives and filling them with characters who breathe, hesitate, suffer, and hope. His plays remind us that originality often lives not in the story itself, but in how it is told. Fact 14. His vocabulary was enormous, but not because he invented everything. People often say Shakespeare invented thousands of words. While he did create some, many simply appear in surviving texts for the first time, because printing was still young. What's remarkable is not invention, but flexibility. He used language with agility, turning nouns into verbs, verbs into adjectives, combining words in unexpected ways. His vocabulary feels vast because he wasn't afraid to experiment. In a world where dictionaries were only beginning to exist, he treated language like a living instrument. Words in his plays often feel newly awakened, as if surprised to find themselves forming meaning. Fact 15. Shakespeare wrote during plague outbreaks that closed theatres. Theatres in London were periodically shut down due to plague, sometimes for months at a time. During these closures, Shakespeare could not earn money from performances. This forced him into quieter forms of writing, including poetry like Venus and Adonis. These periods of stillness shaped his career. While the world outside was marked by fear and sickness, Shakespeare turned inward, refining his craft in language and metaphor. The rhythm of closures and reopenings formed a backdrop of uncertainty that may have influenced the emotional depth of his later plays. Fact 16. His sonnets reveal a more intimate voice. Shakespeare's 154 sonnets offer a different kind of artistry compared to his plays. They feel tighter, more compressed, and more personal, though their true meaning remains unclear. Addressed to a young man, a dark lady, and occasionally to time itself, the poems move between affection, jealousy, admiration, and fear of loss. They are filled with metaphors of seasons, shadows, and the fleeting nature of beauty. While we cannot know who inspired them, these sonnets reveal a writer fascinated by the fragility of human emotion. They remain among the most studied poems in English literature. Fact 17. Shakespeare often wrote roles for the strengths of boy actors. In Shakespeare's time, women were not allowed to perform on stage. Female roles were played by boys or young men whose voices had not yet deepened. This shaped the writing of characters like Juliet, Ophelia, and Viola, whose emotional arcs often rely more on language than on physical presence. The famous pattern of disguise, women dressed as men or mistaken identities, emerges partly from this theatrical constraint. Understanding this makes some of his choices clearer. Lines, scenes, and movements were all crafted with the capabilities of these young performers in mind. Fact 18. Shakespeare's history play-shaped England's national story. The history plays, including Henry IV, Henry V, and Richard III, weren't simply entertainment. They helped shape how England remembered its past. Many people in Shakespeare's time learned national history through these plays more than through books. Characters like the noble Henry V or the villainous Richard III became larger-than-life figures in public imagination. Shakespeare's narratives influenced how later generations understood power, leadership, and destiny. In this way, he didn't just reflect history, he helped write the emotional memory of a nation. Fact 19. His writing changed dramatically. Across his career, Shakespeare's early plays, like The Comedy of Errors and Titus Andronicus, are energetic and bold, full of experimentation. Later works, such as Twelfth Night and Hamlet, reveal deeper psychological insight and more intricate language. Toward the end of his life, plays like The Tempest and The Winter's Tale soften into themes of forgiveness, aging, and reconciliation. His style evolved alongside his life, youthful ambition shifting into maturity, then into quiet reflection. Reading his works in order feels like watching an artist learn, grow, deepen, and finally settle into a gentle farewell. Fact 20. Shakespeare retired, wealthy, not forgotten. Unlike many writers, Shakespeare retired comfortably. He returned to Stratford, bought property, and lived quietly as a respected gentleman. His company continued performing his plays, and his reputation remained strong even during his lifetime, something rare for playwrights of the era. He wasn't a starving artist fading in obscurity. He was a successful businessman who knew when to step back. His final years were peaceful, spent near family. When he died in 1616, he left behind land, money, and manuscripts. A full life closed with dignity rather than tragedy. Fact 21. His will contains small, tender mysteries. Shakespeare's will is one of the few documents written in his own hand, but even this record feels incomplete. He famously left his second-best bed to his wife, a gesture that has puzzled scholars for centuries. Some interpret it as affection, others as indifference. The truth may be simpler. The best bed was reserved for guests, and the second best bed was their marital one. The will lists properties, investments, and gifts to friends, yet it leaves so much unsaid. It is a legal document, but also a quiet window into a man preparing for departure. Fact 22. His spelling was highly inconsistent. In Shakespeare's time, spelling conventions did not exist the way they do today. Even Shakespeare spelled his own name in multiple ways, from Shakespeare to the now standard Shakespeare. Early published editions of his plays also show variations in common words. This inconsistency wasn't considered sloppy, it was normal. Writing was fluid, governed by sound, habit, and the scribe's preferences. English was expanding rapidly, absorbing new forms. Shakespeare lived in a moment when language was flexible, alive, and unconfined. His spelling reflects a world where creativity and structure coexisted in loose, natural balance. Fact 23. The first folio saved many of his plays. After Shakespeare's death, two of his friends and fellow actors, John Heminges and Henry Condell, gathered his plays into a single collected volume known as the First Folio, published in 1623. Without this book, nearly half of Shakespeare's works, including Macbeth, Julius Caesar, and The Tempest, might have been lost forever. The folio was expensive and large, meant for libraries and wealthy readers. It preserved the shape of his career and ensured that his plays reached future generations. Heminges and Condell's loyalty remains one of the greatest acts of literary preservation in history. Fact 24. Many famous lines come from plays rarely performed today. We associate Shakespeare with famous quotes like, "All that glitters is not gold," or "The lady doth protest too much." Yet some of these lines come from plays that modern audiences seldom see. Works such as All's Well That Ends Well, Measure for Measure, and Timon of Athens contain lines that have travelled far beyond the plays that birthed them. It's a reminder that Shakespeare's influence spreads unevenly. Some works became legends. Others quietly contributed expressions and images that slipped into everyday language, forming threads in English long after the plays themselves faded from stages. Fact 25. He had a remarkable sense of human nature. Shakespeare's characters feel real because he captured human contradictions. His heroes doubt themselves, his villains charm and hesitate, and even minor characters reveal glimpses of private struggles. He seemed to understand that people are rarely one thing. Hamlet is both decisive and indecisive. Macbeth is ambitious, yet fearful. Rosalind is witty but vulnerable. Shakespeare watched people, listened to them, and noticed small gestures. His talent lays not in perfect moral judgments, but in seeing how complex and layered each person could be. This attention to human nature is one reason his works still resonate with readers today. Fact 26. Comedy and tragedy often overlap in his writing. Shakespeare rarely kept genres separate. His tragedies contain jokes, fools, and moments of unexpected warmth. His comedies include shadows of sadness, loss, and danger. This blending reflects the unpredictability of life. In Romeo and Juliet, humour appears even minutes before catastrophe. In Hamlet, gravediggers joke while digging a grave. Shakespeare understood that emotion isn't tidy. Joy and sorrow intertwine, sometimes within the same breath. This subtle mixture makes his plays feel closer to lived experience, unpredictable, textured, and emotionally rich. His genres overlap the way real human feelings do. Fact 27. Some plays show signs of collaboration. Although Shakespeare is often viewed as a solitary genius, evidence suggests he collaborated with other playwrights, especially in his early and late career. Plays like Titus Andronicus, Henry VI, and The Two Noble Kinsmen show linguistic fingerprints of co-authors like Christopher Marlowe and John Fletcher. Collaboration was normal in the theatre world. Deadlines were tight, production demands were high, and shared writing allowed companies to produce new material quickly. Rather than diminishing his legacy, these collaborations reveal Shakespeare as a practical, flexible artist working within a bustling creative community. Fact 28. He experimented constantly with structure. Shakespeare didn't write all his plays the same way. Some follow clear 5-act structures, others move in unusual rhythms. Othello builds tension steadily, while King Lear fractures into overlapping storms of emotion. The Tempest is almost lyrical, blending poetry with magical spectacle. Shakespeare adjusted structure depending on the story's needs. This willingness to explore different shapes and patterns helped make his work feel fresh even centuries later. His plays aren't formulaic. They breathe. They expand, contract, twist, and unfold in forms that reflect the emotional landscapes they seek to portray. Fact 29. Many of his plays contain meta-theatre. Meta-theatre refers to moments when a play comments on itself or acknowledges that it is a play. Shakespeare loved this device. Characters in Hamlet perform a play to reveal guilt. In A Midsummer Night's Dream, amateur actors rehearse a comedy inside the larger story. These moments pull the audience into a space where illusion and reality blur. Meta-theatre reminds us that storytelling is both artifice and truth, a crafted mirror held up to human life. Shakespeare's use of this technique shows his awareness not just of drama, but of drama's power to reflect and distort. Fact 30. His influence reaches far beyond literature. Shakespeare's works shaped not only English literature but also film, theatre, psychology, politics, and everyday language. Phrases like break the ice, wild goose chase, and heart of gold entered common speech. His plays inspired operas, ballets, novels, and films. Characters like Hamlet, Falstaff, and Lady Macbeth became archetypes recognized worldwide. Even scientific papers reference Shakespeare. His work is woven into culture so deeply that we quote him without realizing it. His influence endures because he articulated universal emotions with unusual clarity. leaving a legacy that continues to expand across disciplines and centuries. Fact 31. His female characters were exceptionally complex for the era. In a time when women could not act on stage and often held limited roles in society, Shakespeare's female characters showed remarkable depth. Figures like Portia, Rosalind, Beatrice, and Lady Macbeth display intelligence, wit, desire, ambition, vulnerability, and strength. They often drive the plot more than male characters do. Shakespeare seemed to recognise the inner lives of women with unusual sensitivity for his age. Even though boys played these roles, the writing allowed space for emotional complexity rarely given to women in earlier drama. His plays suggest that he understood, or at least imagined, the fullness of their worlds. Fact 32. Weather often mirrors. Emotion in his plays. Storms, winds, fog, and sudden darkness appear throughout Shakespeare's works, not merely as setting but as emotional architecture. In King Lear, the storm echoes Lear's unravelling mind. In Julius Caesar, unnatural weather warns of chaos to come. Shakespeare used the sky as a canvas on which human feelings were projected. Frustration becomes thunder, fear becomes fog, grief becomes rain. This technique, known later as pathetic fallacy, gives his plays a cinematic quality long before cinema existed. Nature becomes a quiet companion to human turmoil, reflecting emotions with a kind of poetic sympathy. Fact 33. Shakespeare's humour included wordplay, physical comedy, and satire. Shakespeare wasn't only a master of tragedy, he also wrote with brilliant humour. His comedies sparkle with puns, misunderstandings, disguises, and sharp observations about human behaviour. Characters like Falstaff, Dogberry, and the Gravediggers mix verbal wit with clumsy physicality. Even in serious plays, unexpected moments of humour appear, not to undermine the scene, but to reveal a different angle on human experience. Shakespeare understood that laughter often sits beside sorrow, and that humour can reveal truth as effectively as drama. His comedic range reflects a writer who saw life in many shades, not just one. Fact 34. Shakespeare's plays were performed without elaborate sets. Elizabethan theatres relied heavily on the audience's imagination. There were few props, minimal scenery, and no artificial lighting. Instead, Shakespeare used language to create vivid worlds. A character might say, "This blasted heath," and the audience would picture a desolate moor. A single line like "yon tower in the distance" could conjure an entire city. This reliance on imagination made Shakespeare's writing more descriptive, rhythmic, and atmospheric. The plays were not visual spectacles in the modern sense. They were linguistic landscapes. Words became scenery, and the stage became a place shaped by sound. Fact 35. He often combined poetry and prose in the same play. Shakespeare used poetry for noble characters, heightened emotion, or moments of philosophical reflection. Prose appeared in scenes involving commoners, humour, or everyday conversation. The switch between the two forms was deliberate. When a character suddenly moves from prose to poetry, it often signals a shift in feeling or awareness. When poetry slips into prose, it may reveal exhaustion, truth-telling, or emotional collapse. This mixture gave the plays texture and rhythm, allowing Shakespeare to control the emotional temperature of a scene through form alone. The structure speaks as loudly as the content. Fact 36. He loved exploring the theme of disguise and identity. Many Shakespearean characters hide behind masks, costumes, or assumed names. Viola disguises herself as a man in Twelfth Night. Rosalind does the same in As You Like It. Even kings like Henry V disguise themselves to understand their people. Disguise allows characters to reveal truths they cannot express openly. It also exposes how fragile identity can be, how easily it shifts with appearance or circumstance. Shakespeare used disguise not merely for comedy, but as a way to question what remains constant when everything external changes. The theme asks, who are we beneath the roles we play? Fact 37. Music played a significant role in his productions. Shakespeare's plays often included songs performed live on stage, lullabies, drinking songs, haunting melodies, and playful tunes. Musicians were part of the theatre company, and music helped set emotional tone, create transitions, or signal deeper meaning. In The Tempest, Ariel's songs feel magical and otherworldly. In Othello, the Willow song foreshadows tragedy. Songs allowed moments of stillness inside the drama, a pause, a breath, a shift in mood. Shakespeare understood how music softens the audience's attention and prepares them for what comes next. Even today, these musical moments remain among the most memorable in his works. Fact 38. Shakespeare frequently rewrote, cut, and expanded his plays. The texts we read today are not fixed in stone. Shakespeare revised his play throughout their performance life, responding to audiences, actors, and practical needs. Some versions are shorter, others longer, and some contain lines missing from later editions. The plays were living documents, adjusted for pacing, clarity, or emotional effect. This constant reworking reminds us that theatre is fluid, not a single, perfect version, but a series of evolving shapes. Shakespeare wasn't overly precious about his scripts. He allowed them to change, grow, and breathe along with the theatre that performed them. Fact 39. Some of his characters speak in fragments, not full sentences. To convey emotional turmoil or mental fragmentation, Shakespeare often broke the smooth rhythms of verse. Characters like Lady Macbeth, after her descent into guilt, begin speaking in shorter, jagged lines. King Lear's later speeches fracture into pieces. This stylistic shift wasn't an accident. It mimics the unravelling mind. Shakespeare used punctuation, pauses, and broken syntax to show psychological depth long before modern psychology existed. Through form, he revealed what cannot be said directly. Fractured speech became a mirror reflecting fractured thought. Fact 40. Shakespeare's own voice appears in very few places. Unlike many writers, Shakespeare rarely inserts himself directly into the text. We have no diaries, no letters, and almost no personal documents. Scholars sometimes suspect glimpses of him in certain speeches, in Prospero's farewell, in Jacques' melancholy, in Hamlet's reflections, but nothing is certain. He hides behind his characters, allowing them to speak the emotions he never recorded. His personal voice is a soft shadow behind the plays, felt but never fully grasped. This silence adds to the enduring mystery of who he was beyond the worlds he created. Fact 41. The sonnets reflect his fascination with time. Shakespeare returns to the theme of time again and again, especially in his sonnets. Time appears as a thief, a sculptor, a storm, a quiet destroyer. It erases beauty, reshapes memory, and stands beyond human control. Shakespeare writes as if trying to wrestle with something too large to capture, yet he also imagines poetry as resistance, a way to preserve what time seeks to take. "So long lives this," he writes, "and this gives life to thee." In these lines, he reveals his hope that words can outlast decay, holding a moment still long after it has passed. Fact 42. He was a master of blank verse, not just rhyme. Although Shakespeare used rhyme in his sonnets and early plays, much of his greatest writing appears in blank verse, unrhymed iambic pentameter. This form mirrors the natural rhythm of English speech while still allowing elevated expression. It gives the language a heartbeat-like cadence, steady, flexible, human. Blank verse lets Shakespeare shift between intimacy and grandeur without forcing rhyme. It enabled soliloquies to unfold naturally, like thoughts forming in real time. Through this form, he shaped the emotional architecture of English drama, allowing the spoken word to sound both conversational and poetic. Fact 43. Many stage directions were added after his death. Shakespeare's original scripts contained very few stage directions. Instructions like "exit pursued by a bear" in The Winter's Tale are rare. Most of the cues we see today, entrances, exits, emotional notes, even scene divisions, were added by later editors trying to clarify performance. Elizabethan audiences relied on spoken hints to understand shifts in location or mood. Actors knew their roles intimately and required fewer written instructions. This means that modern editions of Shakespeare are partly editorial interpretations. What we read on the page is shaped not only by Shakespeare, but also by centuries of hands that arranged the text. Fact 44. Some of his plays exist in multiple conflicting versions. Hamlet, King Lear, and Othello appear in different early editions with lines added, removed, or altered. Sometimes entire scenes vary. These differences may reflect Shakespeare's revisions, actors' memories, or errors introduced by printers. Rather than revealing inconsistency, they show the living nature of theatre. A play was not a static object, but a performance shaped by rehearsal, improvisation, practical adjustments, and evolving artistic choices. The multiple versions invite us to see Shakespeare's plays not as final products, but as processes, shifting, growing, and transforming across time. Fact 45. Shakespeare's company performed before royalty. Shakespeare's troupe enjoyed royal patronage, first from Queen Elizabeth II and later from King James III. Under James, they became the King's Men, an extraordinary honour. They performed at court during celebrations, ceremonies, and special occasions. These performances required refinement, clearer diction, more polished staging, and perhaps gentler humour. It is calming to imagine Shakespeare standing in the candle-lit halls of Whitehall Palace, watching actors bring his words to life for the most powerful figures in the nation. Even kings listened to the worlds he built, a testament to the quiet influence of art. Fact 46. Superstition still surrounds Macbeth. In theatres, even today, many actors refuse to say the name Macbeth inside a theatre, calling it the Scottish play instead. The superstition stems from centuries of accidents, misfortunes, and unexplained events associated with productions of the tragedy. While most of these stories are exaggerated, the play's dark tone and violent imagery contributed to the aura of danger. Shakespeare's use of witches, prophecies, and bloodshed gave the drama an unsettling energy. Whether or not the curse is real, the superstition has become part of theatre culture. A small reminder that stories can create powerful atmospheres that linger. Fact 47, his later plays, drift toward forgiveness and wonder. In the final phase of his career, Shakespeare wrote plays now called the late romances, including The Tempest, Cymbeline, and The Winter's Tale. These works soften the sharp edges of tragedy and restore hope where earlier plays offered only despair. They focus on reconciliation, healing, magic, and renewal. Their language feels gentler, their emotions quieter. Scholars sometimes see these plays as Shakespeare reflecting on aging, memory, and the desire for closure. Whether or not this is true, the works offer a sense of peace, as if he were slowly dimming the lights on a long creative journey. Fact 48. Shakespeare's globe was destroyed by fire in 1613. During a performance of Henry VIII, a cannon used for sound effects misfired and ignited the thatched roof of the Globe Theatre. Within an hour, the entire structure burned down. Remarkably, no one died. The company rebuilt the theatre quickly, this time with a tiled roof to prevent similar accidents. The fire reminds us how fragile Shakespeare's world was. Wooden beams, open flames, and bustling crowds. The theatre was a living organism, vulnerable to chance. Yet from its ashes it rose again, continuing to carry Shakespeare's stories to eager audiences. Fact 49. Shakespeare's work was not always revered. Although Shakespeare was respected in his lifetime, his reputation fluctuated in later centuries. In the 1700s, editors rewrote his plays to suit changing tastes, adding happy endings, removing jokes, and altering characters. For a time, audiences preferred these modified versions. It was only later that scholars restored the original texts and revived interest in Shakespeare's authentic voice. His rise to unparalleled literary fame was gradual, shaped by generations who rediscovered his brilliance. Shakespeare's legacy is not a straight line. It's a slow unfolding, like a book being reopened by each new era. Fact 50. His tombstone bears a curse. Against disturbing his bones, Shakespeare's grave in Holy Trinity Church carries an inscription believed to be written by the poet himself. It warns anyone who moves his bones that they will be cursed, and blesses those who leave them untouched. Whether playful or serious, the inscription has worked. Unlike many historical figures, Shakespeare's remains have never been exhumed for study. The words feel like a final curtain, a quiet request for peace. After a life spent filling the world with voices, Shakespeare seemed to ask for silence at the end. His story ends with a warning and a blessing. Fact 51. Shakespeare wrote. During a time of expanding English, the English language was rapidly evolving in Shakespeare's lifetime. New words were entering from Latin, French, exploration, science, and trade. Grammar was shifting, spelling was fluid, and dictionaries were not yet standard. Shakespeare wrote into this uncertainty, shaping the language as he used it. His willingness to experiment, transforming nouns into verbs, blending words, stretching meanings, reflected a world discovering its own voice. English was flexible, adventurous, and full of possibility. Shakespeare didn't just follow this change, he contributed to it, leaving echoes that continue to shape how English sounds today. Fact 52. His plays were popular with all classes. Shakespeare's audiences range from illiterate labourers to scholars, merchants, lawyers, and even royalty. The Globe Theatre physically reflected this diversity. Groundlings stood near the stage, while wealthier viewers watched from galleries. His plays had to appeal to everyone at once, offering broad humour, sharp political insight, emotional depth, and philosophical reflection. This combination of high and low elements made his work accessible yet rich. Shakespeare understood the rhythms of everyday speech as well as the elegance of poetic language, weaving them together to create stories that resonated across all layers of society. Fact 53. Shakespeare wrote quickly but not carelessly. Playwrights in his era often faced intense deadlines, sometimes writing a full script in a matter of weeks. Shakespeare worked within this system, producing plays at a pace dictated by performance schedules rather than leisurely inspiration. Yet the speed did not diminish the depth of his writing. His brilliance lay in his ability to shape language fluidly, trusting instinct and experience. The immediacy of theatre, its hunger for new material, its constant rehearsal, sharpened his craft. His plays were not polished in solitude, but forged in the urgency and energy of performance. Fact 54. He rarely stage-directed. Emotion. Explicitly, modern scripts often include notes like angrily, sadly, or with hesitation. Shakespeare's plays contain almost none of this. Instead of instructing actors how to feel, he embedded emotional cues within the language itself. Rhythm, punctuation, repetition, and imagery guide performers toward the scene's emotional landscape. This openness allows each generation to interpret the plays anew. Different actors emphasize different shades of a character, and the plays remain alive because they resist fixed interpretation. Shakespeare trusted both the language and the performers to discover emotion without being told exactly how to express it. Fact 55. His villains are strikingly human characters. Like Iago, Richard III and Macbeth are often remembered as evil, yet Shakespeare gives them motives, doubts, and flashes of vulnerability. Their speeches invite audiences into their minds, revealing desires, wounds, and fears. Shakespeare understood that darkness can be seductive because it often reflects aspects of human nature that people hesitate to admit. His villains are complex, persuasive, and sometimes disturbingly relatable. They remind us that evil is rarely simple. It often grows from ambition, insecurity, resentment, or longing. By giving villains depth, Shakespeare made them unforgettable. Fact 56. Shakespeare's work contains surprisingly few stage fights. Although his plays are filled with conflict, most battles occur off stage or are described rather than shown. The reasons were practical. Stages were small, rehearsal time limited, and safety a concern. Instead of choreographed violence, Shakespeare used language to create the impression of grand conflict. A messenger's report, a character's wound, or a brief flash of combat could suggest entire wars. This approach heightened tension through imagination rather than spectacle. When fights do occur, such as in Romeo and Juliet, they are swift moments surrounded by rich verbal drama. Fact 57. Many of his settings were places. He never visited. Shakespeare wrote about Italy, Denmark, Egypt, ancient Rome, and faraway kingdoms, yet he never left England. His knowledge of these locations came from books, travel as stories and imagination. Rather than aiming for accuracy, he created emotional landscapes shaped by drama. His Venice is a city of contracts and secrets. His Rome is a place of honour and betrayal. His Denmark is a theatre of introspection. These settings became symbolic rather than literal. Shakespeare's worlds reflect the truth of human behaviour more than geographical detail, and that is why they remain powerful. Fact 58. Shakespeare loved wordplay, even in tragedy. Puns, double meanings, and linguistic twists appear everywhere in Shakespeare's works, not only in comedies, but also in tragedies. In Macbeth, words twist into prophecy. In Hamlet, they reveal layers of doubt and irony. Shakespeare seemed to delight in the flexibility of language, finding humour, tension, or subtle commentary through clever phrasing. This playfulness adds texture to the dialogue, giving scenes multiple meanings at once. Even in the darkest moments, language keeps shifting, as if reminding us that words themselves can be slippery, unpredictable, and alive. Fact 59. Some plays end abruptly by modern standards. Modern audiences sometimes expect a long denouement after the climax, but Shakespeare often ends his plays quickly, once the central conflict is resolved. Battles end, lovers reconcile, villains fall, and within minutes the curtain closes. This pacing reflects the rhythms of Elizabethan theatre, where attention had to be maintained and performances were limited by daylight or candlelight. The abruptness gives the plays a sense of immediacy. Life changes quickly in Shakespeare's worlds, and resolution comes not through lingering reflection, but through decisive final movement. Fact 60. His final play may have been a farewell to theatre. The Tempest is often considered Shakespeare's final solo work. In it, Prospero gives up his magic, breaks his staff, and asks the audience for release through applause. Many see this as Shakespeare's own farewell to writing. Whether intentional or not, the speech carries a tone of closure, gentle, reflective, accepting. After decades of creating worlds through language, Shakespeare seems to offer a quiet goodbye. The play ends not in triumph or despair, but in a soft turning toward peace. It feels like a final bow from a man ready to step away from the stage. Fact 61. Shakespeare often revisited the theme of power and its fragility. Kings rise and fall quickly in Shakespeare's plays. Crowns are heavy, easily gained, and even more easily lost. From Macbeth to King Lear to Richard the Coon, Shakespeare explores how ambition corrodes judgment, and how authority can slip from one's grasp like sand. His characters discover that power is rarely stable. It can be threatened by betrayal, fate, or even one's own doubts. Shakespeare seemed fascinated by the idea that leadership exposes a person's deepest fears. Through his tragedies and histories, he shows how fragile human control truly is, and how swiftly fortune can change. Fact 62. Shakespeare's histories reinvent the past, not reproduce it. While Shakespeare based many plays on English history, his goal was not factual accuracy but dramatic truth. He shaped events to emphasize character, conflict, and moral consequence. Kings become symbols, battles become metaphors, and political struggles become reflections on human nature. The real Richard III, for example, likely did not match the villainous figure Shakespeare created. Yet the dramatic version endures because it expresses deeper anxieties about tyranny and ambition. Shakespeare's histories reveal how storytelling can transform facts into psychological landscapes, allowing audiences to contemplate the past through emotion rather than strict documentation. Fact 63. Shakespeare's dialogue often mirrors natural speech patterns. Although highly poetic, Shakespeare's writing often resembles the rhythms of spoken English. Lines pause, restart, overlap or trail into silence. Conversations sound alive, filled with interruptions, questions, and shifting tones. This naturalism gives characters a sense of immediacy, as though the audience is eavesdropping on private thoughts or urgent discussions. Shakespeare understood that real communication is messy, full of hesitations and half-formed ideas. By weaving this into his verse, he created dialogue that feels both elevated and human, timeless, yet grounded in the everyday rhythms of the voice. Fact 64. He frequently used animals as metaphors for human behaviour. Animals appear throughout Shakespeare's writing: lions, serpents, ravens, horses, hounds, and countless others. They symbolise fear, cunning, loyalty, innocence, or danger. Shakespeare used these images to illuminate traits in his characters. A single comparison to a wolf or a dove could reveal inner motives more effectively than long explanation. Animals became mirrors of human emotion, reflecting instincts we often suppress. These metaphors also connected the plays to nature, reminding audiences that human behaviour is part of a larger tapestry. In Shakespeare's world, animals help translate the complexity of human desire into vivid imagery. Fact 65. He had a unique ability to capture internal conflict. Shakespeare excelled at portraying characters torn between opposing desires. Hamlet debates action versus hesitation. Brutus struggles between loyalty and honour. Macbeth battles ambition and conscience. These internal conflicts unfold not through external description, but through the characters' own voices. Shakespeare wrote soliloquies that feel like windows into private minds, places where fear, hope, guilt, and longing collide. His characters think out loud, allowing audiences to witness the intimate turbulence of decision-making. This attention to inner life was groundbreaking, giving psychological depth to drama long before psychology became a formal discipline. Fact 66. Shakespeare's maps of emotion are more precise than his maps of place. Shakespeare sometimes made geographical errors, placing boats near landlocked cities or confusing coastlines. But where physical maps blur, emotional maps sharpen. He charted jealousy, grief, wonder, joy, and suspicion with remarkable clarity. The accuracy of feeling mattered more to him than the accuracy of setting. His plays remind us that literature is less about literal precision and more about capturing emotional truth. Even when the physical world is imperfectly drawn, the emotional world remains vivid and exact, guiding audiences through landscapes shaped by the human heart rather than geography. Fact 67. Food and drink often reveal social status and character banquets. Feasts, shared cups, and humble meals appear frequently in Shakespeare's plays. What characters eat, or refuse to eat, signals their class, mood, or relationships. Lavish feasts in Macbeth and Timon of Athens show wealth and power, while simple meals in the comedies reveal warmth and community. A character's attitude toward food can suggest greed, generosity, anxiety, or celebration. Shakespeare understood that meals are deeply symbolic. They mark alliances, betrayals, beginnings, and endings. Through food, He shows how daily rituals carry emotional meaning and reflect the hidden dynamics of human social life. Fact 68. Shakespeare often writes, "Fathers with deep flaws." Fathers in Shakespeare's plays are complicated, inconsistent, or painfully human. Lear misunderstands his daughters. Polonius meddles and misjudges. Capulet loves fiercely but reacts harshly. These figures attempt to guide, protect, or control their children, yet often fail. Shakespeare uses them to explore generational misunderstanding and the difficulties of authority within a family. These flawed fathers are not villains. They are people struggling to balance pride, fear, and affection. Their mistakes create conflict but also reveal tenderness. Shakespeare's portrayal of parenthood feels timeless because it embraces complexity rather than simple moral lessons. Fact 69. The natural world often foreshadows human events. Strange omens, unusual animal behaviour, eclipses and storms appear before major turning points in Shakespeare's plays. These signs are not supernatural predictions, but poetic reflections of human tension. When political order fractures, the natural world seems to tremble. When a character's fate darkens, shadows lengthen. Shakespeare used nature as a subtle narrator, hinting at emotional or moral imbalance. This technique deepens atmosphere, creating a quiet sense of inevitability. Even today, these moments resonate because they mirror the intuitive feeling that the world sometimes echoes our private fears. Fact 70. Shakespeare's plays invite endless interpretation. Few writers create works that can be understood in so many ways. Shakespeare's plays support psychological readings, political readings, feminist readings, religious readings, and countless others. His language is rich with ambiguity, allowing multiple meanings to coexist. Directors reinvent his plays through new settings, cultures, and artistic styles. Scholars debate single lines for decades. Shakespeare's openness is part of his brilliance. He leaves space for each audience to bring their own experiences. His work does not close itself off. It expands, shifts, and adapts, reflecting whatever age encounters it. Fact 71. Shakespeare often shows how language can manipulate reality. Shakespeare's characters frequently use words not just to communicate, but to reshape the world around them. Iago twists truth into poison. Antony stirs a crowd to fury with careful rhetoric. Even gentle characters persuade, distract, or soothe through speech. In Shakespeare's plays, language becomes a force as powerful as swords or crowns. Words can deceive, inspire, or destroy. Shakespeare understood how fragile reality becomes when language is manipulated. His plays gently remind us that speech carries weight, and that meaning, once distorted, can change the course of lives. Fact 72. Many of his characters share human fears about mortality. Though written centuries ago, Shakespeare's characters worry about aging, death, and the passage of time much like we do. Hamlet contemplates the afterlife with uncertainty. Macbeth fears what darkness awaits beyond life. The sentiment golden lads and girls all must, as chimney sweepers come to dust, captures a universal truth. Mortality levels all distinctions. Shakespeare approached death not with cold distance, but with curiosity and tenderness. His reflections reveal that fear of the unknown is timeless, linking modern readers to the emotional landscapes of the past. Fact 73. Shakespeare's plays reflect a deep awareness of human folly. Shakespeare observed how people cling to illusions, ignore advice, repeat mistakes, and allow pride to cloud judgment. His characters often stumble into trouble not because of fate, but because of their own flaws. Love blinds, jealousy corrodes, ambition overrides reason. Yet Shakespeare treats these follies with compassion. Even flawed characters are given moments of insight or tenderness. He seemed to understand that imperfection is part of being human, and that mistakes are often the gateways to growth or to tragedy. His plays reveal folly not to mock it, but to recognize it. Fact 74. His works suggest that love is both beautiful and fragile. Shakespeare portrays love in many forms: romantic, familial, loyal, obsessive, playful. Lovers in his plays experience joy, but also confusion, loss, sacrifice, and misunderstanding. Romeo and Juliet captures the intensity and impulsiveness of young love. Twelfth Night reveals its capacity for disguise and surprise. Othello warns how easily love can be twisted by mistrust. Shakespeare saw love not as a simple ideal, but as a complex living force, capable of healing yet vulnerable to human flaws. His writing holds love gently, acknowledging both its beauty and its fragility. Fact 75. Shakespeare embraces the idea that identity is fluid. Characters in Shakespeare's plays frequently change roles, names, costumes, or social positions. Some disguise themselves for safety, others reinvent themselves through ambition or desire. This fluidity suggests that identity is not fixed, but shaped by circumstance and choice. Shakespeare's world allows characters to step outside the boundaries society sets for them, exploring who they might become. These shifts reveal both the freedom and the uncertainty of selfhood. Through them, Shakespeare invites audiences to reflect on the masks they wear, and the truths these masks conceal or reveal. Fact 76. Shakespeare uses silence as powerfully as speech. Pauses, unfinished lines, and quiet moments often reveal more than long speeches. Silence can signal refusal, introspection, fear, or resistance. In King Lear, Cordelia's silence during the love test speaks louder than her sister's elaborate declarations. In Macbeth, brief moments of stillness heighten dread. Shakespeare understood that what is not said, the spaces between words, carries emotional weight. Silence becomes a form of expression, allowing audiences to feel tension or tenderness without explanation. It reminds us that language's power sometimes lies in its absence. Fact 77. His depictions of friendship are deeply nuanced. Friendship in Shakespeare is never simple. It may be loyal, strained, betrayed, or rekindled. Hamlet and Horatio show steady devotion. Antonio and Bassanio reveal the generosity and vulnerability of companionship. Falstaff offers chaotic affection, while Brutus and Cassius struggle between trust and conflict. Shakespeare recognized that friendships shape and define us, often more than romance or politics. Through these relationships, he explores empathy, forgiveness, rivalry, and sacrifice. His understanding of companionship feels intimate and timeless, reminding us how friendships enrich and complicate human life. Fact 78. Shakespeare often wrote about the tension between fate and free will. Characters frequently question whether their lives are guided by destiny, chance, or personal choice. Macbeth trusts prophecy yet acts to fulfill it. Romeo and Juliet call themselves star-crossed, suggesting fate has already written their path. Hamlet wrestles with whether events are divinely shaped or shaped by human indecision. Shakespeare doesn't offer a single answer. Instead, he shows how people interpret fate in ways that reflect their fears or desires. His plays suggest that life is woven from both external forces and internal decisions, a tapestry of destiny and self-determination. Fact 79. Shakespeare's work contains surprisingly modern psychological insight. Centuries before psychology emerged as a discipline, Shakespeare explored self-doubt, trauma, guilt, projection, and cognitive dissonance with remarkable clarity. Characters express anxieties that feel contemporary: imposter syndrome, fear of failure, sudden irrational jealousy, or existential questioning. His plays reveal how thoughts spiral, how emotions conflict, and how memories shape identity. Readers often notice that Shakespeare seems to articulate feelings they have struggled to express themselves. His insights remain modern because they speak to internal experiences shared by people across time. Fact 80. His use of dreams reflects the unconscious mind. Dreams appear throughout Shakespeare's plays as windows into characters' inner lives. They reveal fears, desires, or warnings. In Julius Caesar, Calpurnia dreams of Rome running with blood. In Richard III, Clarence dreams of drowning. Even the whimsical dream in A Midsummer Night's Dream carries emotional truth beneath its magic. Shakespeare understood that dreams express thoughts we cannot always admit when awake. They blur boundaries between reality and imagination, becoming symbolic landscapes. In his works, dreams illuminate the hidden corners of the human mind, gently, mysteriously, and poetically. Fact 81. Shakespeare often uses clothing as symbolism. In Shakespeare's plays, clothing frequently represents identity, status, or deception. When characters change clothes, they often step into new roles or reveal hidden truths. In Macbeth, borrowed robes echo Macbeth's unearned kingship. In Twelfth Night, disguises create both confusion and clarity. Clothing becomes a metaphor for the outer layers we present to the world, layers that can be put on, removed, or mistaken. Shakespeare understood that people often judge by appearance, and he used garments to explore how fragile and misleading those appearances can be. Fact 82. Shakespeare's plays reveal a deep curiosity about justice. Legal language, trials, contracts, and questions of fairness appear throughout his work. The Merchant of Venice centers on a dramatic courtroom scene. Measure for Measure examines the limits of law and the complexity of mercy. Shakespeare seemed fascinated by the tension between written rules and moral intuition. His plays often show how justice can be influenced by emotion, power, or circumstance. Rather than offering easy answers, he presents justice as a living, shifting idea, something shaped by human judgment rather than absolute certainty. Fact 83. He frequently explores how rumours shape reality. Whispers and hearsay drive many of Shakespeare's plots. Characters act on incomplete information, misunderstand each other, or become trapped by gossip. Othello collapses under the weight of rumour. In Much Ado About Nothing, love nearly fails because of false reports. Shakespeare recognised how easily misinformation spreads and how quickly it becomes accepted truth. His plays show that rumours can act like invisible characters, influencing decisions, reshaping relationships, and provoking conflict. Long before modern concerns about misinformation, Shakespeare understood the power of a whispered lie. Fact 84. Shakespeare portrays madness with remarkable sensitivity. Characters such as Hamlet, Ophelia, Lear, and Lady Macbeth express forms of psychological breakdown that feel disturbingly familiar. Shakespeare does not treat madness as spectacle, but as a deeply human struggle. He captures confusion, fragmentation, and vulnerability with poetic precision. Moments of incoherent speech or wandering thought reveal inner chaos without mocking the suffering. His depictions suggest empathy, a desire to understand minds pushed to their limits. Through these portrayals, Shakespeare acknowledges the complexity of mental distress long before modern psychology provided language for it. Fact 85. Shakespeare uses letters to create dramatic turning points. Messages, letters, and written notes appear frequently in his plays, often triggering major shifts in plot. A lost letter in Romeo and Juliet leads to tragedy. In Hamlet, a switched letter changes the fate of two innocent men. Written communication becomes symbolic, representing truth, secrecy, misunderstanding, or manipulation. Shakespeare understood the fragile power of a written word, how easily it can be delayed, intercepted, or misread. These letters serve as reminders that small events can carry immense consequences, and that fate sometimes hinges on the simplest human error. Fact 86. Shakespeare's villainy often emerges from ordinary emotions. Instead of relying on supernatural evil, Shakespeare builds many villains from feelings we recognize: jealousy, insecurity, ambition, neglect, or wounded pride. Iago feels overlooked. Claudius envies his brother. Macbeth wants a future he fears he cannot earn. These ordinary emotions transform into destructive choices, revealing how human weakness can grow into something dangerous. Shakespeare's villains disturb us because they reflect tendencies we might glimpse in ourselves. Their motivations are grounded in reality, making their actions both believable and unsettling. Fact 87. He uses time as a dramatic force. Time in Shakespeare's plays is not just a background element, it acts almost like a character. The rapid unfolding of events in Romeo and Juliet heightens tension and tragedy. In the comedies, timing creates humour through coincidences, mistaken identities, or sudden arrivals. Shakespeare often compresses or stretches time to intensify emotional impact. His characters feel the pressure of passing hours, looming deadlines, or lost opportunities. Through time, Shakespeare shapes rhythm, suspense, and urgency, reminding us that the pace of life itself influences human choices. Fact 88. Shakespeare's ghosts reflect internal and external worlds. Ghosts appear in several plays, but they are rarely simple supernatural beings. Hamlet's father represents both a spirit from beyond and the weight of unresolved duty. Banquo's ghost reflects Macbeth's guilt. Caesar's ghost embodies Brutus's fear and remorse. Shakespeare used ghosts to blur the line between external haunting and internal turmoil. They symbolize memory, regret, and unresolved emotion. Whether audiences interpret them as literal or psychological, Shakespeare positions them as forces that demand recognition. Reminders that the past never fully disappears. Fact 89. Shakespeare shows deep compassion for outsiders. Many of Shakespeare's most memorable characters exist on the margins: Caliban, Othello, Malvolio, and others. These figures experience exclusion, misunderstanding, or prejudice. While the plays reflect the attitudes of their time, Shakespeare often gives these outsiders powerful voices, expressing pain, dignity, and vulnerability. He reveals how society shapes identity and how difference can lead to conflict. His portrayal of outsiders is complex, sometimes flawed, sometimes sympathetic, but always human. Through them, Shakespeare explores the longing for belonging and the ache of isolation. Fact 90. His work endures. Because it embraces contradiction, Shakespeare's plays rarely offer simple truths. Characters can be both noble and flawed, loving and cruel, brave and afraid. His worlds hold humour beside sorrow, beauty beside violence, forgiveness beside revenge. Rather than smoothing contradictions, Shakespeare embraces them, allowing complexity to reflect real human experience. His plays remain relevant because they resist easy interpretation. They invite reflection rather than prescribe conclusions. In their contradictions, we recognize ourselves, imperfect, changing, and full of tensions that cannot always be resolved. Fact 91. Shakespeare uses light and darkness to express inner states. Throughout his plays, light represents clarity, innocence, revelation, or hope, while darkness suggests secrecy, danger, or emotional turmoil. Romeo and Juliet is filled with contrast between daylight and night, symbolizing both love and risk. In Macbeth, darkness becomes a physical echo of moral corruption. Shakespeare uses these images gently but powerfully, turning natural phenomena into emotional landscapes. The shifting balance between light and shadow reveals characters' fears, desires, and inner conflicts. These contrasts remind us that human experience is rarely absolute. It moves constantly between brightness and shadow. Fact 92. Shakespeare shows how language can heal or harm. Words in Shakespeare's plays often act like invisible weapons or remedies. A kind phrase can calm a troubled heart. A cruel remark can deepen a wound. Characters sometimes talk themselves into hope or despair. Shakespeare understood the emotional power of language long before psychology explored it. His plays demonstrate how words create trust, mend relationships, expose truth, or inflict permanent hurt. This sensitivity to the impact of speech reveals an awareness of human vulnerability and a recognition that communication can shape emotional well-being as profoundly as action. Fact 93. Shakespeare explores how society shapes individual freedom. Many of Shakespeare's characters grapple with expectations imposed by family, class, or gender. Juliet resists the constraints of her parents. Rosalind challenges the limits placed on her as a woman. Prince Hal rejects the identity his father expects. Shakespeare portrays society not as a rigid structure, but as a shifting field of pressures and possibilities. Characters navigate these pressures in ways that reveal both resilience and fragility. Shakespeare seems to suggest that identity is formed in negotiation with the world around us, sometimes freely, sometimes painfully. Fact 94. Shakespeare's storms reflect human emotional weather. When storms strike in Shakespeare's plays, they often echo characters' inner turbulence. Lear's storm mirrors his madness. The tempest in the tempest represents both chaos and the possibility of renewal. These weather events are never just background scenery. They resonate with characters' emotional states, amplifying fear, anger, grief, or transformation. Shakespeare turns the natural world into a companion for human experience, merging external and internal landscapes. His storms remind us that emotion can feel vast and overwhelming, like weather moving across the soul. Fact 95. Shakespeare reveals the power of listening. While many characters speak boldly, others influence the story through listening. Horatio listens to Hamlet with patience and loyalty. Kent listens to Lear when others dismiss him. Even villains exploit the moments when they quietly observe. Shakespeare's plays show that listening is an active force, one that builds trust, uncovers truth, or deepens understanding. The quiet attention of one character can shift the emotional balance of a scene. Shakespeare seems to recognize that being heard is a profound human need, and that listening shapes relationships as much as speech does. Fact 96. Shakespeare often portrays time as a source of healing. Although some tragedies unfold rapidly, other plays suggest that time allows wounds to soften and clarity to emerge. In The Winter's Tale, years pass before reconciliation becomes possible. In Measure for Measure, distance creates perspective. Shakespeare understood that healing is not immediate. It grows slowly with patience and reflection. Time becomes a gentle force, reshaping grief and restoring balance. His plays remind us that change is gradual, and that forgiveness, understanding, or renewal often require the quiet work of passing years. Fact 97. Shakespeare's comic characters reveal truth through playfulness. The fools, jesters, and comedic companions in Shakespeare's works often speak truths that more serious characters avoid. Feste, the fool, and Touchstone use humour to illuminate hypocrisy, expose hidden emotions, or offer wisdom disguised as nonsense. Their playfulness softens the delivery of difficult truths, allowing audiences to reflect without defensiveness. Shakespeare recognized that humour opens emotional space, a gentle doorway to insight. His comic characters remind us that wisdom can emerge from unexpected places, and that laughter can reveal what seriousness sometimes conceals. Fact 98. Shakespeare's plays suggest that hope persists, even in darkness. Even in tragedies, Shakespeare leaves glimpses of resilience. In King Lear, compassion survives amid devastation. In Macbeth, innocence endures through Malcolm's future. In Hamlet, truth eventually rises to the surface. Shakespeare acknowledges suffering without erasing the possibility of renewal. His plays suggest that hope is not naive. It is a quiet, stubborn force that remains even when circumstances turn bleak. Through small gestures, loyal relationships, or simple acts of honesty, Shakespeare offers gentle reminders that light can return after the darkest moments. Fact 99. Shakespeare endures because he captures what it means to be human. Across comedies, tragedies, histories, and romances, Shakespeare returns to the fundamental experiences of life: love, jealousy, ambition, fear, joy, sorrow, loyalty, betrayal, and wonder. His characters feel deeply, contradict themselves, and struggle to make sense of their world, just as we do. Shakespeare does not offer perfect heroes or simplified villains. He offers people. His plays invite us into the complexity of the human heart, revealing emotions that transcend time and culture. We return to Shakespeare because, through his stories, we recognize ourselves, endlessly flawed, endlessly searching, endlessly human. Thank you for spending this time with Moonlight Literature, exploring 99 gentle insights into the life, work, and lasting spirit of William Shakespeare. Across these reflections, we travelled through storms and soliloquies, quiet letters and restless dreams, deep friendships and fragile hopes. In Shakespeare's world, every emotion has a place, every contradiction is welcome, and every human truth is held with compassion. Shakespeare lived 4 centuries ago, yet his words continue to move alongside us, in the phrases we speak, the stories we tell, and the questions we still ask about love, identity, and the passage of time. His writing reminds us that people of every era share the same unknowns, the same small joys, the same fears that flicker in the corners of the mind. If tonight's journey brought you clarity, comfort, curiosity, or simply a moment of peace, then Shakespeare has spoken once more, softly and across the years. Before you go, take a slow breath. Let the thoughts settle, and when you're ready, feel free to return to this quiet corner of literature whenever you wish. Thank you for listening, and until next time, may your nights be gentle and your stories endless.